Well, maybe just for a few weeks, we did begin to doubt whether this was still the best league in the world, but the EFL Championship is back and it has delivered with a vengeance over the last week or so. Drama, goals and plenty to play for, and although the race for automatic promotion is settled, congratulations to both Leeds United and Burnley fans. At the bottom end of the table, it is chaos, with everyone finally choosing to win. There's also still a race for the playoffs, and as we move into the penultimate weekend, there are a lot of games with plenty on the line. So today we are going to preview and predict the whole of Matchweek 45, all 24 teams in action between Friday and Monday. And as always, I'll encourage you to do exactly the same in the comments. Give us your score predictions, and if you beat or match my overall score, you'll get a shout out next midweek when we return to look ahead to the final day, which I'm pretty sure will still see us with plenty to play for. For now though, let's go and have a quick recap of what happened on a very bonkers Easter Monday, because there were big scores, there were shocks, there were goals, there was everything. And I started with one perfect score. Cardiff City v Oxford United, a 1-1 draw, despite Aaron Ramsey ending up being in charge of Cardiff that game. We're going to get some weird managerial interim appointments over the next few weeks, aren't we? We'll talk about them a bit later on. 4 other points for me for home wins for Leeds United, for Millwall, for Plymouth and for Portsmouth. Gave me 7 points in total on Easter Monday. Not a bad effort given the scores, and it was proven so by the rest of the comment section, because no one scored more than 10 and not many people got above 7. I was level with 4 other regulars in Leo, Mello, Marco and Chris. Well done to all of you for joining me on 7. One above us in 3rd place on 8 is Trevor. Great effort from you this match week. Gordon is the runner-up with 9, and then 2 of you take the joint mantle. On 10 points apiece, our very own Leeds and Burnley are Akshay and Nigel, who both reached double figures, and are the joint match week winners on Easter Monday. Can you back it up on a penultimate weekend though? Let's go and look ahead to a big match week. Loads of huge games at the bottom and in a race for the playoffs, and some that are big in both. It does make some of the TV picks look a little bit bizarre for this weekend though. Let's start with the Friday night football, a game that you would have to say is now a bit of a dead rubber. It is 17th v 3rd, it is Stoke City v Sheffield United, and this one now becomes very hard to call because, as we predicted, Stoke City very much arrived on the beach against Leeds, a very good side, and of course Leeds got the job done in style, but for Stoke it was a pretty paltry effort, and we knew it was going to be the case. We knew they were going to be at 50 points, relax, and it was all going to go downhill. It's exactly what happened. So after a good run, Mark Robins has done the job, but he will have learnt a bit about some of those players that weekend. For Sheffield United, involved in what I think we were all surprised to see as a fairly entertaining game against Burnley. Again, defensive mishaps from Armour Hodzic. I'm still not that convinced by him. He's a very good player, but he does have rash moments in him. In the end, though, it was a much better performance from Sheffield United, but not enough to stop the promotion for Burnley and Leeds, which is going to be disappointing given how the last 5 games have gone. Losing 4 of them puts them in poor form. So Chris Wilder's got a big decision to make now. Does he try and reinvigorate form and momentum for the playoffs? Or does he try and give people who have had a long season a bit of a breather? And given some of the injuries they've had throughout the year in certain positions, he may choose to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see which approach they take. It's 2 teams that probably aren't fussed by the result. Stoke City can't really go anywhere. I doubt they're going to go down now. And especially given the fact that Hull have got to play Derby, given that Plymouth are playing Preston, etc., it's unlikely that they're going to get dragged into it. Sheffield United are secured 3rd. Do you know what? I think we might see a few fringe players, and I think we might see a bit of an entertaining game. Hopefully for the neutral, it'll be end-to-end. I'm going to start bonkers. We've seen goals the last few weeks. I'm going to go for 2 goals apiece. A game that means a little bit more and has now been switched to the main TV viewing on Saturday lunchtime. It's a game that's big at both ends of the table. My club, Luton Town, host Coventry City. It is 22nd v 6th. Luton Town did not think they would still be in the relegation zone if they picked up 6 points over the Easter weekend, but here we are. That goal difference really proving a problem now. A 3-1 win against Bristol City, though, was incredibly encouraging. Partly because Carlton Morris finally produced a striker's goal in 2025 for Luton Town. January signings, Jones and Asgard, Milanic Ali involved as well, looked fantastic. And while Luton gave up possession, they created chances, they opened teams up, and they took chances, which is all the more impressive. Okay, Asgard's strike was probably a pretty poor goalkeeping error. And to be fair, Luton only conceded from a screamer themselves. But it was a much better performance, probably the best we've seen at home under Matt Bloomfield. With Ted and Mengi back in defence, Burke continuing his comeback, Chong and Nakamura available as subs as well. There are options arriving for Luton Town and some of those better players that would normally be regulars in the squad. So a really encouraging sign for them. And then on the flip side, we called it, didn't we? I said I had a funny feeling about Plymouth Coventry, and it proved that way. Plymouth not only won the game, but probably deserved to. They gave up the ball. Coventry had nearly 3/4 of it, but Plymouth created lots of very good chances on the counter-attack. Could have scored 3 or 4, and in the end, they did get their 3. So you've got to give them big credit. They hit Coventry and exposed their defensive frailties on the counter. And that's what Luton will be looking to do as well, with the likes of Ali, Asgard, Jones, Amari Bell out wide as well. This is going to be a very big weekend. Coventry and Bristol City were both fortunate in a way that Middlesbrough didn't want to get in the playoffs either. But if they lose this one, there will be a little bit of concern. Coventry's away record has not been the best in recent weeks. Conceded 3 at Plymouth, 3 at Sheffield United, and were held at Hull City. I don't want to go with heart over head again, but I've got a sneaky feeling that Luton might do this. I need them to. We need 3 points on the board. I'm going to go for a narrow win by 2-1 for Luton Town. And please let it be right. If no other scores come off, just let that one be correct. As we move on to the second lunchtime kickoff, now a bit of a dead rubber, apart from the fact that there's still a title to play for. It is Queen's Park Rangers versus Burnley. QPR beaten at home by Swansea City, but they're safe. They've had a comfortable season. And to be fair, while they gave up a 2-goal advantage, it was a bit of a nothing game. Again, two sides that have nothing to play for. I know Sheehan's managing to try and get the job at Swansea, and they did have the best chances. QPR didn't create a lot, which we've often accused them of not taking chances this season, but to not create much is a bit of a concern. Overall, though, a decent finish to the season for them, and more than a decent finish for Burnley, who won by 2-1 for the third successive game to edge over the line against Sheffield United. It was a fairly nervy finish. It could have been a draw, probably on the balance of play would have been a fair result, but Burnley, you know, when they've got a lead, they are a very tough side to stop. An excellent effort from them, and to concede 15 in 44 goals. I know at times we've talked about their lack of expansiveness and the fact that they've not been able to break teams down on the road, a lot of 0-0 draws. But over the season, the two right teams have gone up in terms of play. The best defence and by far the best attack. I think Burnley have done really well. So they can start to prepare for the Premier League. There may be a bit of a come down for this one, but of course, they'll still want to win the title as well. QPR have nothing to play for either. So do you know what? I'm going to go for Burnley to win this one in style. Doesn't happen often away from home, but QPR may come out and have a go at them. I think Burnley will take advantage. My bold call of the weekend is 3-0 to the visitors. Let's move on to a team that have hit form and now remarkably are back in the playoff race. Just a couple of weeks after the protests, it is Blackburn Rovers versus Watford. Watford made it 3 successive defeats with a 1-0 turnover at Pompey. Another red card. We've talked about that discipline a lot in recent weeks. Pompey with a dominant side, should have won by more. And let's be fair, Watford missing their first choice midfield due to ill discipline, injuries, etc. is really not helping them in this instance. Not got a deep enough squad to cope with it. With the greatest of respect, the players that played in there, they're not going to be getting them a promotion. So they're going to need to build this summer. I hope they stick with Tom Cleverley because I think he's done a decent job. And I don't think it benefits them to go back to square one. But they've got a weaker squad, lacking in depth, and they need a little bit more in there. So we'll see whether Cleverley gets backed in the summer. On the flip side of that, Blackburn, 3 successive wins. Gritty 1-0 away wins at Luton and Sunderland. A big win at home to Millwall. It's been an excellent week and a half. And we said it. Be patient with Valerian Ismail. It was a classic away display in the Championship. 1 shot on target, 1 goal. Had to soak up pressure for the most part, but were very organised and didn't give up too much in terms of clear-cut chances to Sunderland. Overall, I thought it was a decent away day, albeit you're maybe not getting the entertainment there. So Blackburn Rovers stay in with a sniff of the playoffs, albeit it's very unlikely now. So I'm going to go with my neck on the line here for a 1-0 Blackburn win. Watford are so poor away from home, and Blackburn are just hitting form again. As we move to another big game at the bottom, and 2 bizarre managers in the dugout here. We have got Aaron Ramsey's Cardiff City against James Morrison's West Bromwich Albion. Tony Mowbray sacked after a 3-1 defeat at home to Derby. It's been a bit of a nightmare start. However, You have to say, they did have more of the chances in that game. Derby were brilliant on the counter, nicked the goals, but West Brom played well without having that cutting edge. Something we've said all season under Corberant and Mowbray. But obviously under Corberant, they had that gritty, solid defensive side, which they just seem to have lost in the last couple of months. I don't personally think it's the right decision, but time will tell, and it will depend who the replacement is. For now, though, they have to go into this managerless against the Cardiff side that have still got plenty to play for. A 1-1 draw at home to Oxford United maybe puts them in last chance saloon here. To concede that goal with 10 minutes to go has put them right in danger. And I do feel a bit for Aaron Ramsey because they've not got the squad or the backing to compete here. However, they did do okay. They were the better side in the game, dominated the ball, the chances, but didn't create enough clear-cut opportunities. And then again, conceded the one chance they gave away. A difficult day defensively, a really frustrating one to take. Stops the run of 2 defeats, but it's a long winless run now. And that is a big problem for Cardiff at this stage of the season. 2 of the most out-of-form teams in the Championship. But to be honest with you, I think West Brom will probably win this game. Cardiff, the problem is they're going to have to chase it. If it's level, which I think it will be, they're going to have to chase it. And I think they get caught on the counter. As we saw against Oxford, teams don't need many chances to score past them. I saw it with Luton the other week too. I'm going to go for West Brom to win by 2-1 and probably relegate Cardiff City. Let's talk about the big game at the bottom next. The 2 teams directly outside the relegation zone. It is Hull City versus Derby County. Derby with the perfect away performance at West Brom. As we mentioned, soaked up the pressure, hit on the counter with style and managed to get a 3-1 win. I talked about it after the Luton game. The way they played, they were going to win most matches. And while it was a different performance on the road, they certainly did the job. For Hull City, a brace of penalties was enough to get that win over Preston North End. A better performance, created more chances, but again, still not convincing. These are the 2 sides that will be looking over their shoulder. If Luton can beat Coventry, if Plymouth can get a win, if Cardiff can get a win, one of these 2 sides will be in desperate trouble. Derby County have obviously got a more favourable final day fixture, so this game becomes massive for Hull with the home pressure too. I watched them at home to Luton, obviously, they were really poor. But then they got a point against Coventry. They won that game against Preston. The only thing for me is they don't look a threat from open play at home. And Derby County will not offer them that space in behind where they've had success away at the top teams. Derby will just wait and they'll try and hit them as well. And I can see this being a little bit of a stalemate for the most part. A large part of me wants to go for a Derby win here. I really think Derby might nick it. But I'm going to sit on the fence and play safe. The Championship's favourite scoreline. We've not had many draws in the last couple of weeks. But like Cardiff Oxford on Monday, a big relegation 6-pointer and a cagey one, a 1-1 draw. As we move back to the playoff race, and again last chance saloon, Middlesbrough host Norwich City. It is 3 defeats in 4 for Borough now, who really struggling for goals. I've been really surprised by the lack of impact Kelechi Iheanacho had. In fact, he was dropped from the team on Monday. Morgan Whittaker's not really hit the ground running. And Azaz and Conway have had great spells, but they have been patchy at times. Marcus Forsback again, not really looking a threat too much. They lost the lead and fell away in that game. And to be fair, Sheffield Wednesday deserved it. That was a Wednesday team that were out of form too. So big concerns for Borough. A home note, bar the Leeds game, they have been okay. They've found a way over the line against Plymouth and against Oxford. But will they do so against Jack Wilshere's Norwich City? Thorup not able to produce the heroics that David Wagner did last year. And I'm not going to go on a rant about the style of football again. But whether you like it or not, you've got to play to your team's strengths. And for Norwich City, the way they were playing was not. They've conceded 10 goals in their last 3 matches, 5 against Pompey. They let Millwall score 3, who never score more than 2 in a game. It was a really disappointing display. And defensively this season, it's all lovely that you want to come out and play more expansive football. I'm sure David Wagner did too. He's done it at every other club. But you've got to adapt to the team you've got. And that Norwich defence is brittle. They're into the bottom half. Their season has fallen away. I think Borough have to win, and I think Borough will win. I don't think it'll be convincing. I don't think either keeps a clean sheet. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough by 2-1. And what about the next one for teams back in the playoff race? It is Millwall at home to Swansea City. Swansea first, the form team in the division. I'm going to say it again. If they don't give Alan Sheehan the job permanently soon, they're going to lose him because someone's going to take him. He's a brilliant young coach. He was an excellent skipper at Luton. You could see he had those coaching qualities, even when he was named as a sub and doing coaching instructions while warming up. 5 wins in a row, 1 goal conceded. They beat QPR, they're 11th. They've still got a chance at the playoffs. When Luke Williams left, we thought they were the side that might get dragged into the relegation battle. They are now one of the 5 sides that can mathematically still make the playoffs with 2 games to go. It's an incredible turnaround. It's a brilliant effort. And the fact that he hasn't been given a job yet is genuinely astonishing to me. Maybe by the time this comes out, that will change, I don't know. But while it wasn't a great game overall, they had the best chances. They played well on the counter, and they deservedly got their win. For Millwall, though, they are just 3 points off the playoffs and have a genuine chance of making it. 4 wins in 5, and it'll make that big defeat at Blackburn even more crushing, because the fact that that's costing them on goal difference as well might well be a big thing. Against Norwich, I mean, it was a poor defensive display for Norwich, but Millwall took advantage. Scoring 3, it's the one thing that's been missing from their game is goals. They dominated the game, they had loads of chances, and they took some of them. Brilliant effort. Ivanovic looks a superstar. If they can keep hold of him next year, they're going to be a right handful with 1 or 2 additions. Alex Neil deserves credit. Alan Sheehan deserves credit. 2 brilliant managers doing a good job, and 2 very solid defences in recent weeks. And as a result of that, I'm going to go for a result that may frustrate both. I'm going to gamble on a 0-0 draw. Let's move on to a team that may well be looking over their shoulder again. It is Oxford United versus Sunderland. I said 48 points was enough. It's starting to look a bit different now, isn't it? Oxford, though, will be so grateful for that equaliser against Cardiff City. Just keeps the distance to them to 6, means that they probably can't finish below the bottom 2 now. But they will be looking at Luton, Derby and Hull with a little bit of nervousness. However, a good result on the road, and now they're at home to a team that can't score and can't win games. Sunderland, 4 without a victory. They've only scored 1 in that time at Bristol City. They're preparing for the playoffs, but they're not exactly going in with momentum, are they? Against Blackburn, they were the better team. They had more of the ball, they had the territory, they had the chances, but they didn't really create those clear-cut openings. They do struggle against teams that sit deep. And in the end, they were just resorting to sort of 20-yard shots. Set pieces were a large part of the game, but they weren't able to create many brilliant openings. So a little bit of a concern for them. Oxford are going to be similarly robust, play as if they're a counter-attacking team. Because let's be honest with it here, Oxford have been competitive in most home matches. And if they don't lose this match, they're probably safe. Because a 50th point to go 4 ahead of the others, you know that Derby or Hull are going to drop points. If Luton don't win, it could be done anyway. So I think Oxford will set up not to be beaten. And I think they might achieve it. I do think Sunderland may score a goal from distance because Oxford will sit very deep. I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline and a 1-1 draw, which, to be honest, I don't think either will be that upset about. Now, this game, I didn't expect to be a big one at the bottom. However, it is Preston North End versus Plymouth Argyle. Plymouth may be bottom, but they are right back in it. And Preston may be 18th, but they are right back in it as well, because they have lost 3 successive games by 2 goals to 1. They've got a depleted squad. They sort of put their feet up after that FA Cup tie and thought the season was done, and now they find themselves back in a little world of trouble. We know goals have been a problem for them all season, but the fact they're starting to concede them at the other end is a big problem now as well. Yes, they have a couple of senior players back on the bench at the weekend, but it is not a great situation for them. And if Plymouth win, they could still finish above them going into the final day, albeit goal difference dictates that probably won't be the case. What Preston could find, though, depending on other results, is that they're within a point of the relegation zone on the final day, which would be a disaster from where they were. For Plymouth, I mean, you've got to give credit to Miron Muslic. If he'd have been bought in earlier or in the summer to start with, I don't think Plymouth would quite be in this mess. 3 successive home victories against Norwich, Sheffield United and Coventry. And against Coventry, they were very good value for it too. Hit on the counter, gave up all of the ball and produced some brilliant counter-attacking moves. Deservedly got 3, could have got more. Yes, they gave up chances at the back, but they have to at this stage. We talked about Plymouth being in a win or bust situation. They're not going to keep clean sheets because their defence is ropey and they're having to leave them exposed. But going forward, they looked fantastic. And even if they do go down, if Muslic stays, I think they've got a great chance next year because they're really starting to build a good style and a solid base to work from. For this game, I've got that funny feeling again, you know. Preston just need to grind out a point. I know 0-0, 1-0, it looks an awful result. It's not exciting. But if they do that again, like Oxford, 50 points will be fine. I think Plymouth might win it. I know they very rarely win away from home, but they produced one at Pompey when they needed it. They got that point at Watford. I'm going to go for Plymouth to win by 1-0 on the counter. A clean sheet on the road and make it very interesting for the final day. But again, as a Luton fan, I hope I'm wrong on that one. I'm going for Preston 0, Plymouth 1. The final game on Saturday is a bit of a nothing one now, and that will be delightful news to the visiting fans. It is Sheffield Wednesday versus Pompey. Portsmouth beat Watford by 1-0 to back up that 5-3 win at Norwich. They're comfortably safe on 52. John Mousinho's tinkering during the year, the gambling and prioritising fixtures has all paid off. Colby Bishop, since returning, we mentioned at the start of the season, was a big miss not having him. But you have to give credit to the Pompey board as well. They stuck with Mousinho when every other club around them was panicking, and they have been rewarded. They are the lowest placed team in the league who have not sacked their manager or had a manager leave during the season. And as a result, they are the team who are most comfortably safe, despite the expectation of being right down in the mix. They were brilliant on the counter against Watford. They created enough chances to win 2 or 3. And yes, while they were playing 10 men for the last half an hour, it was another very good home performance. So really pleased for Pompey because they've done so well, and John Mousinho is proving to be an excellent young coach. For Sheffield Wednesday, though, they stopped the rot against Borough with their own very good performance. Danny Roll, it's his final home game, I would imagine. And to be fair, he wants to go out with a bang. He's been so good for Sheffield Wednesday, and I feel for the fans there so much because we mention it on this podcast. Chansiri, every couple of years, just does something ridiculous to shoot himself in the foot. It looks likely that Sheffield Wednesday will have a transfer embargo, will lose a manager, have got an ageing squad who they're going to need to replenish but won't be able to. It feels like it's going to be a very difficult year next year in comparison. But for now, Sheffield Wednesday are in 13th place. They're comfortably in mid-table, despite a poor run prior to that Borough game. And where they were last season and the fight they had, this has been a very good year. So Sheffield Wednesday against Pompey, another game where both teams can just come out and enjoy themselves. And like I did for the first game on Friday night, I'm going to go for a thrilling 2-2 draw. As we move on to the final game on Monday night, maybe not quite as dramatic as it once looked. However, it still involves a title race and a playoff push. Or will it by that point? Because it is Leeds United versus Bristol City. By this point, we will know what the Burnley score was and what the Coventry and Borough scores were. If Borough and Millwall lose, Bristol City won't have to worry about this game. They'll just have to decide whether they want to face Sunderland or Sheffield United and put out a team accordingly. For Leeds United, I called it one game too early, didn't I? I said they'd flamboyantly go over the line against Oxford. They instead did it against Stoke with a 6-0 win. Joel Pirro back in goal scoring form at the right time. It was a great performance against the side on the beach. The timing worked out perfectly. But again, I've mentioned it this year. For Burnley deserving to go up for being so solid and such a brilliant defensive effort, Leeds United are the only team, while they haven't done it every week, they're the only team that have been capable of consistently blowing teams away. And the 89 goals when nobody else has scored past the mid-60s tells you everything you need to know. A brilliant effort from them. Leeds United back in the Premier League. But they face a Bristol City team who have become Bristol City at the worst possible time. They were in brilliant, consistent form, but with 2 games to go, oh, it's all gone wrong. They were dismal at Luton. They were really poor. Offered nothing in the first half, scored a screamer to get back on terms at 1-1, but individual errors from the goalkeeper for the first, 2 individuals from set pieces not marking, and then the third goal, a counter-attacking move that just carved them open. But this is the frailty of Bristol City still, dominating the ball and not having a chance. They so often play on the counter, they so often play against teams on the break, which they'll be able to do against Leeds. But when they start to face teams that are going to do this, probably a lot more next season, it might get a bit more difficult for them. It's a transition Luton themselves made 3 years ago. They got in the playoffs in a similar way under Nathan Jones, then had to adapt under Rob Edwards as teams sat back against them. But overall, a brilliant year for Bristol City. I think even without another point, they still probably make the playoffs, to be honest. But this game, they need to bounce back, and I'm not sure they will. They'll try and sit behind the ball. They'll try and hit on the counter. It's whether Leeds are desperate to win the title or whether they'll just be a party for the fact that they're already up. The Burnley result may shape that come Monday night, and I'm going to go for a pretty poor game and a 1-0 home win for Leeds United. So with that out of the way, let's have a quick recap of what I've gone for on the penultimate weekend. A 3-0 win for Burnley to keep up in the title race, but Leeds to match it with a 1-0 win on Monday. I've gone for wins at the bottom for Luton Town, for Plymouth Argyle, and I've gone for a draw between Hull City and Derby County. It puts Preston back in trouble if my predictions are right, but do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think will make the playoffs and who do you think will get relegated? Let us know. Give us your score predictions for match week 45, and if you beat or match my overall prediction score, you will get a shout out when we return next midweek to look ahead to the final weekend of the season. There's going to be plenty to play for, so if you want to stay up to date with it, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. Chuck a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one, and don't forget, as always, we will have predictions from all of the playoff matches across the EFL and the National League over the next few weeks. Make sure you stick around for them and get involved with those shows too. But for now, it's all about the Championship, the penultimate weekend, and my team Luton Town are still in a dogfight. Fingers crossed, there's another miracle to come on Saturday.